First question I had for you, Monsieur Lévy, is on the anniversary of the Maidan, what is the relationship between Europe and Ukraine at the moment?
There is a great admiration in all Europe for the people of the Maidan and for the Ukrainian people. And admiration because there is a strong feeling that in the same time where we Europeans are afraid of Putin, you stand against Putin, you resist against Putin, and you are proud of your European values against Putin. So the dominant feeling is something close to that. Admiration for the courage, the bravura, the spirit of resistance, the spirit of European values on the Maidan 1 year ago, and in Ukraine 1 year after, which is still today in Kyiv.
But is Russia succeeding in dividing Europe as well? I mean, there has been focus on leaders of Hungary and the Czech Republic who are seen as being more pro-Putin and supporting some of Russia's interests within the EU. Is that an issue?
This is true. And also in France, we have some pro-Putin activists and supporters. But if you look carefully at that, who are they? Extreme rightists, neo-fascists, National Front of Marine Le Pen. I don't know if you know who she is, but she is not the cream of the France. She's not the cream of the cream at all. She's a populist leader. So Putin has some strong allies in France and in Germany, sure, but they are not the best, far from being the best. They are, again, very controversial figures, very controversial populist leaders, and they are confined to a margin of the political spectrum. In France, it is clear. The allies of Putin are the extreme right, are the neo-fascists, are the racist-inclined and anti-Semitic, disguised anti-Semite in France. These are the allies of Putin.
And why does Putin appeal to them, to those sort of groups? Do they have an ideological overlap?
I don't know if Putin appeals to them, but they appeal to Putin. Nobody chooses his own allies. You ally with the ally you find. In France, there is a lobby pro-Putin, clear, but it is... take one example. There is one ideologist in the Kremlin today, in Moscow, who is Alexander Dugin. Ideologist of the Eurasiatic dream of all this Eurasia, you know Eurasia. Dugin has 2 books published in France, translated and published in France. One got its forward preface by a man called Soral, S-O-R-A-L, who is a neo-Nazi in France. He's officially, it's not a defamation to say that. He is clearly an anti-Semitic activist, a neo-fascist, admirer of former Nazism. He made the presentation of the book of Dugin. And the other one consists in a conversation of this Professor Dugin with a Frenchman called Alain de Benoit, who is the leader of the intellectual new extreme right in France. So this is the situation. The Putin ideologists, when they arrive in France, they are presented, they are escorted, they are prefaced by the 2 men who embody the fascist or crypto-fascist or para-fascist extreme right in my country. It's a fact. So I don't say that Putin chooses that, but they choose Putin. and the lobby, the pro-Putin lobby in France is composed more or less. You have also some archaeo-Gaullists, you have also a few leftists, of course, but the core of the support to Putin in France is Front National and its satellites.
And what about Ukraine? Because Ukraine also has its far-right movements, and there's been some focus on the neo-Nazis. Does that concern you?
You know, the private sector, the Svoboda, I look at the figures in the elections, in the recent election. It's so small. You have also in Ukraine that private sector exists, Svoboda exists, but they are weaker in Ukraine than Front National in France. If you look at the ciphers, at the figures. So I would even say that extreme right, unfortunately for my country, is weaker in Ukraine than in France. You have probably more today anti-Semites in France than in Ukraine. Far more in France. It's too much to have. Those whom you have in Ukraine is already too much, but it's less too much than in France.
Well, do you think the conflicts being played out in Ukraine are symbolize conflicts that are going on in Europe on the whole? You know, people talk about
the most clear battlefield for these ideological battles, open society opposed to closed society, democracy opposed to authoritarianism. Ukraine is a stage today because you have strong forces pleading for open society and ready to die for open society. You have strong forces pleading for Europe and ready to die for Europe. This was what impressed me more during the Maidan. I was here on Maidan twice. I had the great honor to be asked to speak on Maidan twice. And what struck me so much, what impressed me so much is this image of young boys and girls, 82, ready to die and dying. The celestial Sotnia, dying while embracing the European flag in their arms. I don't know if there is so many youngsters in France or in Germany ready to die with the European flag in their arms. So, in this ideological, symbolical, metaphysical battle, which is the case of Europe as itself today, Ukraine is for sure the front line, the main battlefield, the symbolical core. I'm sure of that. And this means the importance of what is going on here. If I go back and forth so often in Ukraine, if I devoted so much of my time, it is not only to help, it is because your battle is our battle. It is not only support, it is because your values are our values. Your victory will be our victory. Your defeat could be our defeat.
And you once said that France is Ukraine and Ukraine is Europe, I believe. Do I have that right? Yes. Is that still true on the anniversary of Maidan?
What did I say? That
France is Ukraine and Ukraine is Europe. Yes.
Of course. We had in France the experience of our country divided. We had the experience of invasion. We had our Crimea, which was Alsace and Lorraine. We know what it is to have our sovereignty broken, amputated by a foreign force which has values which are opposite to ours. We know that. We did experience that in our flesh. So probably we know better than many others what it means for Ukraine, what happens today in Donbass, what happened in Crimea.
And since you mentioned this conflict, at the beginning of the week there is the 25th anniversary of the Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia, and there have been a lot of protests also in Hungary against the leaders there who seem to represent a more moneyed interest, different issues there. What are the relevance to those sort of struggles today? What has changed since communism fell, and where are the battlegrounds now?
The fall of communism, the fall of the wall, is a huge event. But huge event do not last one day. They last years, decades. The event is still not finished. We are still living the event of the fall of the wall. We are in it. I remember the reply of Chu Enlai, President of China, who was asked, "What do you think, Mr. President, about French Revolution?" He thought a few seconds and he said, "It is too early to say," because the French Revolution, the event is not completely achieved. I would say that the event of the fall of communism is too early to say because it is still going on. What we are seeing in in Hungary, is the cue of the event, and maybe not the cue, maybe the climax of the event. I don't know. Too early to say. What is happening in Ukraine is the cue and maybe the climax, maybe the summit of the event. So we are still in the soup, still in the crest of the event. And you Ukrainians are probably on the front line on this event. And that's why it's so important. For example, we West European, we had, when Czech, Slovaks, Hungarian, Polish came to Europe, we had a very bad word. We said we enlarge ourselves to Europe, enlargement. It was a reunification, not enlarge means that the circle is done, we are all around the table and we bring a new chair. A little chair, a tabourette for the newcomers. No. Poland, Ukraine, Czechia are the heart, the beating heart of Europe. You cannot say that you enlarge yourself to newcomers when the comers are the very heart, are the very center. They feel themselves as such, and they are definitely as such. So we are living all that today in Europe.
And a question from a different direction, President Havel, the first president of Czechoslovakia, he really emphasized the importance of morality in politics and in economics. And it seems often in this post-crisis world that morality is lacking. What do you think the role of morality is in Europe and in politics at the moment?
It's key. What did the Maidan plead for? What did the youngsters on Maidan fight for? They did fight for transparency, good governing, against corruption, three names of morality. It was a battle for morality, not moral order, of course, but morality. People in Europe are fed up with opacity, with governance led by hidden interest, and so on. And even the oligarchs, what you call here the oligarchs, I think they begin to understand that if they are true patriots, if they want to contribute to the building of their country, they have to do it on a line of morality. That's why yesterday I accepted with joy to celebrate, to contribute to this medal to one of these men, Mr. Victor Pinchot, because he is one who understood that. He said, as you know, like Warren Buffett in America, like Bill Gates in America, that part of his fortune will be given back to the people through charities, through nation building, and so on and so on. He understood that the world has changed, that the time of oligarchy is over, that the time of democracy has come, and that nation building supposes that everybody works on it. Everybody contributes to that. Everybody contributes to this building of a new morality. And others understand it too.
All right. Thank you very much for your insight
Thank
on
you.
the anniversary of the Maidan.
Thank you.